I'm going to hand over to our new chairman, the indomitable Sir Hossein Yassaie. Sir Hossein, over to you. Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you. Oh, how does this work? Oh, there it is. Thank you, Stan. First of all, although I'm not the chairman yet, subject to the votes, but as a board member, I can certainly thank you for your 3 years contribution. And I'm counting, if I do become a chairman, on the NMI team doing 99% of the work. But I'll do my best as well. Next few slides really is really a combination of the discussion that have taken place in our deliberation as NMI as to what the future should be all about, and obviously biased by my views of what really matters and how we could go about it. So you can see it as a mixture of, if you like, NMI board views in the discussion we've had and some of my thoughts. So first of all, I mean, there's no doubt that over the last few years, NMI has made significant progress from the origins of being focused on purely semiconductor market many years ago, and it's been able to develop its position in new areas, of course, around the semiconductor space, and some of those have been really successful. I was talking to one of the senior guys in one of automotive companies, and I was really pleased to see that they mentioned ASIN and the fact that they're looking to it to help and guide them going forward. Actually, it was JLR, a senior guy from JLR. So it's quite clear that the initiatives that NMI has taken are making a difference. You know, IoT security, of course, is another important thing that still has a long way to go, but very critical for the future. So I just wanted to make it very clear that, you know, I joined NMI, must have been about 6 or 7 years ago, or maybe more than that, and I can certainly see the difference. Now, however, around us in the industry, things have changed as well, while we've seen the progress. So looking at where we are today, there are massive changes that are taking place. These are leading to both threats and opportunities. It's really difficult for me to sit down and list, you know, all of them. And of course, there's also different views as to what is an opportunity, what is a threat on some of these elements. But I've captured the categories of changes into political and social ones and technological/commercial. And I've collected some of those together. So if we touch on, say, political and societal ones, you know, I'm personally an avid Remainer, and by my attitude, and we still have, you know, there's a lots of ups and downs going on with the court cases, etc. By my attitude to it is, whatever happens, we have to be prepared for this change. It's something that the nation has decided. There will be a change, and we need to get on and do what we have to do to make the country successful. And the way I'm looking at it is Korea managed to become one of the powerhouses of the world after a war that completely destroyed it. I'm sure we can do better than that after Brexit. So look at the opportunities and try to make a difference. There are some positives that are happening. You know, I was working very closely with the government until, you know, recent political upheaval. And one of the things that did happen is post-coalition, the new government was less interested in industrial strategy. I don't know how many of you were involved with it, etc. But the good thing, one of the good things is that has changed. There's a big focus now with the new government on industrial strategy. There seems to be an interest in a long-range plan, and we need to, as a community, we need to tap into it, influence it, and drive it, and take advantage of it. I'm also sure that you've noticed there's more discussion of place, because of the gap that has been created between North and South in UK, and the same thing we see in US. Different states have either been part of the industrial progress in recent time or been left behind, and there's a attention to what politicians now call the place. It's very important that each area of the country is taken into account. And again, as a community that we go across the UK with actually quite a lot of strength up in the north, I think we should take note of that and influence this as well. There are some major threats also. There's a signs of protectionism by countries. The society is more divided, and I think it's even more reason for a tech community like ours to step in and try to push things in the right direction, take advantage of the opportunities, and basically encourage what will make the country better down the line. From a technological and commercial point of view, there's also massive changes. One of the big markets that I had a lot to do with and took advantage or helped to develop was mobile market. That market is pretty much stable now. You're not going to see massive growth. On the other hand, there's the rise of artificial intelligence, robotics, energy. These are segments that would need a lot of technology or help from technical people, whether it's semiconductor or software or others. The other thing that is definitely taking place, which links to the comment I made in the previous bullet about place, is redistribution of manufacturing. There's no question that in 20 years' time, things will be made in different places. Not everything will be in China. There'll be stuff back in Europe, and we, as a country, we need to be ready to make sure that we ensure the right balances take place there. And I'll make the last comment here. My push at the moment is to also, wherever I engage with the government, is in addition to place, make them think about things. Yes, we need to have a sort of countrywide attention in terms of where the economical changes are, but also making things, creating products is also very important. It's not enough to have a bunch of software. I mean, I understand your slide, and I think that's good, but that actually pointing to the fact that in Europe, there's too much focus on software, and people just go and create an app, companies sell it out, or sometimes high tech. We really need to be much more focused on making things as well. So my view on things is, given what is going around us, is even more important for the tech community to engage and start making a difference. I think innovation is always a central force when massive economical changes takes place or events happen. Innovation does come to rescue and make a big difference. And I don't see why today or this century is any different. So, building on where we are with NMI, given what you heard from Stan and my comment on the previous slide, there's no question that NMI must adjust too, and that unanimously in the board, that was the conclusion. We certainly want to build on what we've achieved in the last few years. NMI has been able to extend its wings and reach a broader community. We want to do more of that. I think the key point to me is it's not enough for us to expect other people to make a difference to what we want to see. We need to begin to define the future that we want. And I think the community needs to come together and needs to bring more people into it so that we can influence things the way we want it. And specifically, I think the two key themes that matter, one is the relevance and the other one is impactful. We need to make sure as a community or collection of communities, what we do is relevant to the current environment, to whether it's political or technological or commercial, and also it's impactful, meaning the voice can be heard and people take note. I think the fundamental point I'm making here is we need to make the difference that is needed, as otherwise I don't think it's going to happen our way. So from my angle on this, I see this as Act 2 of NMI. We've sort of begun the expansion of what the original microelectronic community was to something more wider. But specifically, the discussion we've had recently point to a plan which consists of three fundamental directions. One is NMI needs to make sure that its community encompasses other disciplines, and particularly enabling disciplines in tech that matter. And we can debate what those things are. Some are obvious, some are less obvious. I mean, you heard from Stan that, for example, AI is an area that is going to be very impactful in the next few years, and we need to make sure, and UK happens to be very strong in that space. There are others as well, and I think we need to make sure those disciplines become part of the charter of NMI, as we have done with IoT security, for example, and automotive. I think related to disciplines is the communities around them, particularly helping the development or engaging with communities that are able to add value and have an impact on what we're trying to achieve. In my view, the biggest part of this process is creation of a network and connections that have impact and work together and make a difference. So basically, it's about disciplines, about the communities, and about a working network of those that allows us to achieve what we want through having a voice and through being impactful and through being relevant. So as part of this, NMI must also act in the right way, but also it needs to look in the right way. I will leave the act part to Derek and the team to tell you more about, but I'm going to talk a little bit about the branding and the need to come up with a brand and description or a language that works for NMI going for the future. And the other part of this is we will be going forward, we will be refining the board to make sure we have bigger representation from different communities and also perhaps add punch to the capabilities of the community. I mean, one of the things I don't know whether you're aware or not, as part of this, I actually reached out to our Minister of Digital and Culture and asked him if he could join us this evening. And I'm glad to say our keynote speaker will be the Minister, which is hopefully the beginning of the government taking more notice of this community, which I think is going to be very important. Excuse me. So as to the way ahead in terms of branding, and I have to say we did go through a long list of brands and adjustments. There was heated debates, crazy conference calls at odd times, pulling everyone together, etc. But I'm really pleased to say that all of us agreed at the end what we came up with was fantastic. And there were many people who helped with this, both within NMI or outside NMI. So I'm pleased to show you what we've gone for is the following branding, which is Tech Works. And you can read two things in it. Technology works, or Tech Works, as works being the factory or the place that makes technical things. And it's all about connected communities. And on the left, you see the colors which represent the community, diversity, even the little people together. We can see an element of a complex technical machinery if you want to. But fundamentally, it's about creating an identity and a brand which is modern. It says what we are all about. NMI made sense 10 years ago. It doesn't today. Tech Works, I mentioned this to the minister, and he immediately understood what the new organizations was trying to achieve, etc. So I hope you like it. If you have comments, by all means, I'm sure Derek and the team would be interested to hear. So, as Stan already said, the purpose of TechWorks is that it's an umbrella brand or umbrella organization which will encompass all the existing and new communities, including what essentially is the biggest community, which is the NMI semiconductor or microelectronics and systems activities, but plus the automotive, IoT, etc. And you notice, I've put a couple of question marks. There will be not a huge number, but at least one or two new communities that we will have to encourage. As ever, anything at NMI needs to be members-driven, and I would certainly expect to see a bunch of activities over the next 2 to 3 years to develop this aspect of the community, and so that we're in touch with all the parts that matter. I think with that, the purpose, of course, is enabling UK technology and manufacturing community to become great again. Not that it isn't great, but maybe greater. I don't want to sound like an American president, but that wasn't my punchline, but I went with it as I think it was proposed by NMI. But great again is fine to me. So I think that's the last slide. Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, Alistair. I think Alistair will...